Debate moves on in Geneva. The battle rages on inside Syria. NBC News has confirmed media reports out today that CIA shipments of weapons have begun to reach Syrian rebels. However, sources tell us it's unlikely those shipments will help tilt the balance. And one official tells NBC what the rebels really need to turn the tide are missile strikes. Republican Senator Jim Risch of Idaho is a member of the Foreign Relations Committee who voted against taking military action in Syria and joins me now. Sir, it's good to have you here. And let's talk about the arming of what's taking place. Should the U.S. be arming the rebels right now, given that we don't know who's friend or foe? And if that's not the answer, what is?
Well, first of all, there's been a lot of talk about arming the rebels. The difficulty is there's about 100,000 fighters there, and they're fragmented into a vast array of the kinds of people that engage in these sort of things. There certainly are some people that we would want to see take over the Syrian government, the so-called moderates, but there are some very bad people that are involved in this also. And you're always worried that when you're giving out arms or aid or what have you, that you're emboldening people and helping people that would not be very friendly to us in the long run.
Sir, I want to go back and talk to you, your reaction to Putin's op-ed, and specifically the part where he takes issue with what he calls American exceptionalism. In this op-ed, he says it is extremely dangerous to encourage people to see themselves as exceptional, whatever the motivation. When you've heard what was written throughout this and taking the president to task for reminding everyone on Tuesday night about American exceptionalism, what's your reaction to that? Does this shake your core about how we can trust Putin and whatever credibility he has that he's brought to the table on this, that he'll really be an honest broker through it?
Well, you know, this is another bizarre chapter in what's been a bizarre scenario from the beginning. Is this what it's come to with the head of another large country communicating instead of through the usual delicate diplomatic channels and instead writing op-eds? I mean, it's ludicrous. Look, I've been a vocal opponent of how President Obama has handled this thing from the beginning. But if Putin thinks he's going to somehow move me to his view or what have you, that we are not exceptional people, that's absolutely laughable. Look, this is the former head of the KGB trying to, I sit on the Intelligence Committee, I've seen the intelligence, I know who did this, and for him to be trying to tell us that it wasn't the administration, that it wasn't Assad's troops that did this is absolutely laughable. So, you know, it's just bizarre. The whole thing is just bizarre. This isn't the way diplomacy should be done. At the end of the day, we need to set all of that stuff aside and focus on how can we do what needs to be done, and that is get a hold of this 1,000 tons of chemical weapons. That's what everybody needs to focus on. Stop the rhetoric, stop the pushing and shoving, and let's try to get that done.
It certainly is an expectation of Americans, anyway, for our elected leadership to circle the wagons, so to speak, in Washington, D.C. And there was this morning the Intelligence Summit taking place in Washington, and House Intelligence Committee Chairman Mike Rogers was speaking and referencing the fallout from the NSA leaks, direct reference to Edward Snowden, who now has temporary Russian asylum, and what that's meant for adversaries around the world. I just want to play a small part of it. Take a look.
There's a reason Putin decided to put an op-ed in the New York Times. He knows that America is on a feeding frenzy against itself, and he would love to join in on the game.
Sir, do you agree with that? Do you think that we are on a feeding frenzy against ourselves, and that it takes a little more fuel to the fire coming from D.C. when we have our elected leaders talking about not trusting the president's judgment about what a Syrian strike would mean?
Well, you know, I would certainly put it in different terms. We are having a robust debate about what to do in a very serious and dangerous circumstance. We are debating that, and that's what free people do. And we have a vigorous press here that reports on all that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. That's the way we should go forward. So I see nothing wrong with that at all. Putin trying to inject himself in this is just absolutely laughable, bizarre.
It is kind of like the Twilight Zone. Senator Jim Risch of Idaho. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time today. That brings us to our big question today.